I see some of you guys watching on the web, so if you're on the web, welcome. We'll start here as soon as I can get through and get Mr. Hutchinson on the actual app so that he can join the show. I am texting and emailing, so bear with me. It's always some tech fun at the beginning of the show. Okay, guys, I am trying to get through to Paul just because this is an in-app program, and so we're just technical difficulties because most podcasting shows don't happen here on Fireside, so it's a little different for most people. And so I am waiting to hear back and get him on here with us. So bear with me, give us a couple of more minutes to try to get through so I can get him here on the app and then on camera and in the show. Hey, Monica, we're having some technical difficulties here. I'm trying to get him on the app right now, so hopefully we'll get this worked out. It's always fun with Fireside. Gotta love Fireside. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. I am working hard to get Paul here onto the app. I'm trying to get in touch with him right now because it seems like we have some people on the web, and I'm hoping he's not on the web and doesn't realize that he has to be in the app. So if you're out there listening, Paul, you have to be in the app. Kind of like Clubhouse, but I think you're on here, so I'm just hoping that he's a couple minutes late. And I'm going to start in just a minute, but I'm texting in the background, so just give me one more minute and I'll get. Hey, Paul.
Right back in the door.
Hey, Paul. I appreciate you being here.
I'm
this
so sorry.
It's okay. It's confusing and it's new and it's tech and so whatever, you know. I always just kind of roll with the punches. It's fine. Let's see if I can get you up on video. Are you okay to come on video, right?
Yeah,
Are you
hold on
okay to
just
come on
30
video?
seconds.
Okay, yeah, take your
Hold
time.
on.
I'm going to introduce the show. No worries. Take your time, turn on your video whenever you're ready.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So, you guys, sorry for a little bit of the tech difficulties, but we are here in the Laughter After Trauma show. I am a speaker, educator, and coach that brings light and lightness to the heavy topic of trauma. My name is Deanna. I am a thriver after intimate partner violence, and my healing journey led me to just find the beauty in the healing process and to find the laughter. And what we do here on this show is we just highlight everyday people who either add to other people's laughter or have found their own laughter after trauma. Maybe it's both. And what we do is just share awareness and connection and community and just yeah, share the laughter after. And so that's what we're going to be doing here today. I have a special guest here today with us. His name is Paul Hutchinson, and he's done a whole lot of things. But one of the things that really kind of intrigued me, and we connected on Clubhouse about this, is he does a lot of work in the rescuing children from sex trafficking and child abuse. And so he's done work with the Underground Railroad. He's done some undercover work, and he has founded the Child Liberation Foundation. I think I'm saying that right. And this foundation is a foundation that helps organizations around the world to find the resources. He helps to do influence and just tap into communities, bring awareness to this subject, but bring funds to this subject because it's really important to have the support that's needed out there. But there are other things that he's also interested in. And when I heard him talking on Clubhouse, one of the things that was really cool, hello there, is talking about manifesting and purpose and abundance and all of these other areas in life that, I think that people need to kind of focus in on and understand that it all is part of the big picture and part of ways that they can um, utilize those things to reach back and tap back into the community. So, welcome, Paul. I apologize for all the confusion. I don't know with this with the Fireside app. It's all it's different. It's different.
I've never used it before, so now I'm all yours.
Okay, great. All right. So before we get started, what I would like to do is I'm going to do some sharing and get this out into the public just so that I can make sure people are watching us because it's simulcast on YouTube and it's on the web. And so I want to make sure people are out there watching. But I would like you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself and really what led you to working in the area with the Child Liberation Foundation and in that particular area.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, Deanna. Um, Again, my name is Paul Hutchinson. I've had beautiful opportunities to serve and make a difference in the world, and had my share of challenges as well. From a business standpoint, I'm somewhat of a serial entrepreneur. Have had many successful companies and a few failures as well along the way. Most successful one was a pretty large real estate investment fund. Went public on New York Stock Exchange, had the biggest, over 4,000 employees. I was a co-founder of that. But more important than all of the financial stuff is my focus on charity and trauma healing and the child rescue work. And where that came into play, I've always had a passion for making a difference in the lives of children. Even as a 10-year-old child myself, I wanted to be a pediatric cardiologist. I wanted to be a heart surgeon on children. And so fast forward, some things changed where I wasn't able to go in and be the surgeon, but I went into business. And an important part of all of this conversation is the first company that I built in my early 20s was called the Midwest Center for Stress and Anxiety. My company was Midwest Center Marketing. I had a couple hundred employees that were providing coaching programs, et cetera, for people who had debilitating anxiety and depression to the point where they weren't able to work a normal job and live a normal life. And our program was a cognitive restructuring program that helped people change the negative habit patterns of thought that were creating those challenges in the first place. Negative self-talk and negative expectations and perceptions we have of ourselves. These are all things that are learned behaviors that we can change. And when we do, we can transform our life. And so this really left an impression in my life. I personally figured that I spoke with over 20,000 people over a period of 10 years myself, even as the owner of the company, because I loved being on the phone and helping people work through their challenges. So from a child trafficking standpoint, I had been very involved with a lot of child related charities. I had been involved with things like the Ronald McDonald House and One Life at a Time. And I was on the Make-A-Wish board of directors for 7 years. And that was a beautiful experience in helping children who had life-threatening illnesses, help them change their perspective on life by giving them their dream. It was so beautiful. I was the incoming chairman in this area for Make-A-Wish when I got a phone call from Sean Reyes, our attorney general. And he said, Paul, he said, I know that you're very involved in child-related charities. He said, and he knew a little bit more about my background, some of the skills that I have that make me somewhat safe in these dangerous places. And he said, Paul, he said, I have a Homeland Security agent that has found 20 children in Latin America and Colombia. And this part of the story, Deanna, is the script. This is the true story. This is the script for a movie called The Sound of Freedom that is hopefully coming out this year. Jim Caviezel, he plays Jesus, Passion of the Christ, Count of Monte Cristo. He plays part of Tim, the Homeland Security agent that I'm telling you about that was down there. And the story follows his involvement with Homeland Security and then finding these children. The actor who plays me is Eduardo Verástegui. He's also the producer of the movie. He plays the part of the $1 billion fund manager who helps to fund the mission and go rescue the kids and quits his job to go rescue kids later, etc. This and Eduardo, because of the fact that we filmed the movie while I was still doing undercover, he doesn't play Paul Hutchinson. He plays Pablo Delgado, the $1 billion fund manager who goes and does this. But he you look him up online, it's funny. My personal assistant at the time, she's like, Eduardo is playing you. He's like a heartthrob for half of Latin America. So anyway, I had to find somebody good looking to play me. But so fun. So anyway, the back to the storyline of the movie of what happened in my life to bring me into it. Tim said, Paul, there's not just 20 children in Cartagena. There's more than 50 here. There's more than 100 children tied to the same rings in other areas of the country. He said, we have a plan that we could rescue all of them on the same day. He said, if this happens, this could very well be the largest child rescue mission in one day in history. I'm like, well, what do you need? How can I help you? Can I write you a check? What do you want? He said, I need you. Can you be in Colombia in 2 days? He said, there's other people that could play this role, but I'm just really feeling like this is something that could transform your life and the life of these kids. And so I said, well, why me? He said, well, the head trafficker down here has a piece of property that he wants to develop. It's this island he inherited from his mother that he wanted to develop into a child brothel sex resort, something like a Jeffrey Epstein type island. He needed $8 million to build it out. And he felt like he could make tens of millions of dollars a year with men and others from not only from the US, but from around the world that would fly in and be a part of what he wanted to put together. It was dark, this plan. And this guy had 14 children that he had of his own that he was renting out and doing horrible things with, but he had access to all these other traffickers. And what the plan was is I would fly in and say, and pose as this wealthy business owner. And later on in all the undercover rescue missions, I actually went as Paul Stone or Paul Steele, undercover, whatever. This first one, we didn't have time to set that all up. I went in as Paul Hutchinson. And they were able to research and everything else, and kind of pissed off my partners a little bit. But so I went in. Now this was a super successful sting. What happened is I flew in, met with these guys. There was a bunch of traffickers. One of them was a female. She was a beauty queen, kind of Miss Cartagena type of a thing. And she was working with the traffickers. She was going around to towns in South America. She had this fake modeling agency, telling the parents, oh, your daughter's too pretty to be working in the fields. She should be a model. And she would get these kids to come to a photo shoot or whatever, and they would disappear. And you'll see this all in the movie. And she was sitting there at this table, and we were negotiating all of this. And one of them was so excited that I was willing to come in. He says, Pablo, he said, I have a gift for you. I said, really, what's your gift? And he hands me his phone, and there's a picture of an 11-year-old girl on his phone. He said, this is Princess. She's still a virgin. She's my gift for your party. And she's talked about these horrible things I could do to this little girl. And I thought, oh my God, this thing really happens? And fast forward 2 weeks later, they met with the U.S. Embassy, the Colombian federal agents. They provided 40 agents for us. 4 of them were like our maids, 4 of them are our waiters, 4 of them are our cooks. They're not very good cooks, but they're armed, 20 of them were there to storm the party at the right time. And these guys showed up at Cartagena with 54 children. At the same time, operations were going on in Medellin and Armenia, Colombia, all simultaneous together, over 120 children. And so I'm sitting there, and we put the children in a separate place of the house because they're already traumatized. We don't want them to see the guns or the money changing hands, everything else. And we're sitting there at this table, and one of the traffickers stands up and he said, Pablo, I have to show you the gifts that I brought you. And Deanna, this is the moment that changed my life. I'm sitting on a chair, no taller than I am right now, sitting down. And they bring out these 4 children, scared to death, 4 virgins, 3 little girls, 1 little boy. This little boy I believe he was taken from Haiti. They gave him cocaine that morning because he was so scared. What kind of effed up monster thinks that that's attractive? Every cell in my body wanted to hug these kids and say, you're going to be fine. You're going to see your parents again. I'm sitting on this chair. This little girl standing up wasn't any taller than I was sitting down. And there was tear stains on her face, and she was shaking. She was so scared. And I made a commitment right there as she was looking in my eyes, scared to death, seeing me as this guy who was going to defile her. I made a commitment right there that I was going to dedicate my life to eradicating this problem. I thought, you know what? There's not anything darker. There's not anything greater that I can get behind. I could get behind saving the trees and saving the wells and eradicating poverty. There is nothing worse than this degree of darkness. And I made that commitment that day. And since then, I've had the opportunity to be involved with or lead over 70 undercover rescue missions in 15 countries, and it transformed my entire life. I retired completely from the hedge fund world to dedicate my time to philanthropy and making a difference. But here we are, fast forward, and this is what I really want to get into, and I'll let you ask some questions on this. This is super important. I made a commitment 10 years ago that I would put whatever resources I could, time, money, my own safety at risk, to finding these children and getting them back to their families. I did some rescue missions the end of last year. And at the end of it, I looked at the numbers and I realized that there are more children being sold today than there were 10 years ago. somewhere between 8 and 10 million children is such an astronomical number. And I thought, okay, if my goal is to eradicate trafficking, I'm not doing a very good job, because I realized that every single time I pulled these children out of hell, number one, we had to focus on fixing their trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, because we didn't do anything to solve the demand, it created a vacuum. And 20 or more children got sucked into the deepest recesses of hell. And so I stepped back and I said, okay, what do I need to do to fix this? How can I fix the demand? And for a long time, I thought that the demand was coming from pornography addiction. When you take a woman from a divine feminine to an object, you start going down a dark road. And I thought that's got to be what it is. They get addicted. They want something harder to have that same fix, and that's what ends up there. I've come to an understanding that the problem is much bigger than we can imagine. 1 out of every 4 people on this podcast have experienced sexual violence as a victim at some time in their life. There's and it's probably higher in other countries as well. And what's happening is, especially, the numbers are somewhere around 200 million men on this earth have experienced sexual violence under the age of 10 years old. And what happens when you have that degree of trauma, you have one of two things. Either you grow up and you have low self-esteem and you're holding it all in, or the opposite happens, where it comes out and you become a contact offender, either in verbal abuse, physical abuse, or sexual abuse. And this generational trauma has to stop, and it can stop in one generation. And so my goal is to help people shed that trauma, get rid of it. And this is what I love about your subject of your podcast of laughter after trauma is if I can help people release that and figure out how to heal before they become contact offenders themselves, before they pass that trauma on to others, we literally will be able to rescue millions of children before they were ever hurt in the first place. So that's where my passion is from here on. And realize we've been dark for this first part of the conversation. I've got lots of stories of the deepest, darkest recesses of hell. But the reality is there's such a beautiful light at the other end of the tunnel. And I have seen so much beauty in focusing on trauma healing and helping people shed those shackles that are holding them down by identifying with what happened before, by somehow taking some degree of responsibility for what somebody else did to them. Are you kidding me? That doesn't define us today. Everything in our life is different. Yes, that trauma happened. Yes, it was horrible. But every single cell in your body that experienced that trauma, every single cell in your body is brand new after a year or two. Brand new. And none of it exists. The only thing that exists is you holding on to that trauma and having it define you in a way that it just sucks you into this negativity in life. And so I love the idea of laughing after trauma, finding out how to release that, and stepping into a beautiful world of healing. So there's my intro.
I love it. I love the passion. It comes through. I'm hearing it loud and clear. I'm literally shooting a text to my kids right now because one of the biggest reasons that I got into this podcast and doing laughter after trauma is for breaking those generational cycles. And my generational cycle starts with some some belief systems that allowed me to accept abusive behavior. So I didn't have an abusive childhood that didn't happen in my household, but the fundamental belief systems that I grew up with kind of fed into this allowing or me for some reason, some way that I internalized it and accepting abusive behavior in an 18-year marriage. In that situation, what was perpetuated was what my children learned from being modeled behavior. And when the marriage dissolved and it fell apart, a brother-in-law stepped in. They were good friends. We were all good friends. Our family was very close. He stepped in and said, "Oh, I'm going to help with the kids. We like the same music, blah blah blah." And he introduced drugs and ultimately manipulated them and molested my daughter. And so, yeah, she wasn't trafficked. And because we actually do have the family we have, even though, you know, there are bottoms that I've hit in this process that I'm not going to dredge up right now. But but because of the fact that we are tight and we it did come out and we were able to remove this perpetrator, there are cycles that were broke even in this generation, right? And
Yeah.
so the importance of what you're saying and what needs to happen and where we need to move forward to be able to impact this on a much higher scale is not about locking up criminals that are sick. It's about healing the people that are sick so that you can break the cycles. I
Exactly.
just think that's like, I don't know. How do we, so what's the plan?
People people ask me all the time, Deanna. They say, Paul, how were you able to go face to face with somebody selling an 8-year-old child and have them not see the anger in your eyes and your hatred towards them in your eyes? And my answer surprises most people. I say, it's because I love them. No, you can't love them. They're doing horrible things. No, I love the innocence of those children more. But I've
Mhm.
come to an understanding that if I'm ever judging another human being, whether it's for cutting me out of a business deal, cutting me off on the freeway, selling me a child, whatever it is, if I'm ever judging another human being, there's a 100% chance that I don't have enough information to make that judgment. I don't know what happened to them at 5 years. I don't know if that guy cutting me off on the freeway, if his daughter's in the hospital. I don't know. I don't know if that guy selling me an 8-year-old, if he was raped as a child. He likely was.
Mhm.
And I'm sure there were 1,000 bad decisions and 1,000 bad things that happened to him that got him to the point where he thought that it was okay to sell me a child.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that he never hurts another child again. And this is important. This understanding of forgiveness, this understanding of non-judgment does not mean I allow criminals to run rampant and inflict harm upon innocence. Period. That stops. Okay? But I can do so from a position of love. If you put me in a room and you said, Paul, there's 100 pedophiles in this room and there's 100 traffickers, 200 guys in this room, and you have two choices. You either have a gun for the next hour with no retribution, or you have a microphone. What would you take? I would take that microphone, and that would be the most transformational few hours of their life. I would take them into the pit of hell. I would show them the depravity of what's going on from my personal experience. And then I would say, now let's talk about what you need to do to heal. And here's what it is. Number one, every single person has to recognize the light that is in them, this connection. This is not a religious conversation. But it is important that everybody has a connection to the divine. Whether their divine is called the universe or God or Allah, I don't care. A clear relationship to a loving creator and understanding that that connection that is inside of you is something that connects every one of us. This understanding of oneness, that indeed I am beautifully connected to you and everybody in this audience. And that light of truth within us is something that can help guide our lives. My first book that'll be coming out, and just so you know, I've been completely code silent for the last 10 years. I did my first podcast about a month ago, was all decided that the only way I'm going to fix this problem is to start doing podcasts and writing books, etc. And I believe that step one, or book one in my case, is teaching people how to feel and recognize the spirit of truth within them, the intuition, you might say. And every one of us that have heard it, have felt it at some point in their life. And I have countless stories of doing the undercover rescue missions and not following logic and protocol, but listening to my heart and being guided to where these kids are and being guided in ways that would keep us safe in the most dangerous places in the world. Those same tools are what are required to help people heal. You need to understand that you are not defined by what happened to you, and you are not even defined by what you did. That was the past. That was a past version of yourself that was out of integrity. Yes, there are consequences for our actions, but you can cleanse yourself of that just like you can cleanse dirt on your hands. You're carrying this filth, whether this filth was stuff that you picked up and dealt with yourself, or whether somebody poured that filth on you, we're holding on to it. And by simply releasing that filth and allowing infinite love to be able to cleanse that, we can step forward into a new version of ourselves that is free of that pain and that trauma of our past. And then we don't have to pass that trauma on because we've gotten to a place in our heart. And one of those steps is that of judgment. Unfortunately, we live in a world where we have been taught to judge. We have been taught guilt. We have been taught fear. We have been taught anger, right? And people are just like, well, you have to have judgment. God's a judgment. Well, that's where it starts, okay? When you can let go of that judgment, understand that I don't know everything about that person, and then most importantly, let go of that judgment for yourself, because that negative self-talk that's reiterating over and over in your mind, that's what's holding you down. You're saying, this is the person that I am. This is what I did. And that, you're taking this information into your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind believes everything that you say. So if you're saying, I'm a horrible mom, I'm a horrible dad, I'm a cheater, I did this thing to my ex-wife, whatever it was, you're saying that over and over again. It's programming your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is driving. So
Right.
then of course you're going to be a cheater in the future because you saw yourself as a cheater still today.
Right.
So
I'm just everything, so it's funny, in the foundation of some of my coaching, what I do is the first thing that I make very clear to people is where you are is just where you are. It's not who you are. And I think people really start to get defined by the things they've done, by the roles they take on, and it becomes their identity. And those things are not your identity. They are just a place in time, like you said, this dirt that you're carrying that you can put down. You can put it down. Nobody's making you carry it. Um, and then I do, the same thing, these 5 keys to laughter. If you want to laugh, you got to let it go. You got to learn how to forgive. And forgiveness, most people do not understand what forgiveness is. They think they have some power to absolve people of their sins. And forgiveness is not absolution. Forgiveness is not condoning. Forgiveness is about letting go and not judging. And when you understand that, I can say, okay, well, that was for me, that was my first step. I mean, people might do things in different orders, but for me, that was the first step. And people are like, oh, well, how are you supposed to forgive this person who committed this heinous thing against your family? Well, the way I do that is recognize that they're a sick individual, and I don't need to carry that person around with me. And I don't need to let the anger and resentment take up space in me anymore. But the bigger part was I had to forgive myself, because, of course, I felt like I failed in some area of my parenting to protect my children. And so with that, I said, well, if I can't get through this, I'm not going to get to gratitude and everything. And the A of laugh is the attitude of gratitude, because we all know that love and gratitude, that's the highest frequency you can live in. And if you can live in that space, that's the best place you're going to ever be. But you can't be there if you're filled with anger and resentment. I don't care if you call it righteous indignation. Righteous indignation in a human form is judgment. That's what
yeah,
it is.
exactly.
So,
Oh,
and
right
then
on.
again, and then we go through that, undoing the negative self talk. That's the you. You got to undo it. You got to unravel it, turn off that tape, record over it. I'm old. I don't know how old you are. Press that
Yeah.
play, record, and tape over that tape. So, and then the G is giving yourself the permission to take care of yourself. And the H is having heart, heart yourself,
Beautiful.
and that's, to me, that's how I got to laugh, right? And maybe everybody else's system is a little different, but to me, those are pretty key elements that I think, people need for healing, especially if you're healing trauma, because,
Ex-
it comes from a different place. So it takes a little bit of a different kind of work. It's a bottom up situation, not a top down situation,
I
if that makes
love
sense.
your approach, Deanna. I love
Oh,
it.
thank
You
you.
are so spot on. So spot on. Everything that you're saying, those are the keys to letting go. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. They have a hard time with letting go of that judgment. And you're exactly right. It's not about condoning them. It's not about enabling them to ever do that again. It's about letting go of that negativity that's holding you down. Here's the thing: forgiving others has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you. It's actually irrelevant, even not only forgiving others, but asking for forgiveness from others, that as well. It is irrelevant whether they give you that forgiveness or not. That's irrelevant. This is all about how it is affecting you and your life and your ability to live free of all of these burdens that you've been holding on to. So, bingo, you're right on track.
Right. Well,
In fact, I
so
want
if
to
it's
I want to get a hold of your program and send it out to people. This is beautiful.
it's I need to just put it into a recorded course, but I do everything in person. But hey, I'll share. I'm willing to share. I don't really care. I mean, like, look, I need money just like everybody else, but the heart of the matter is, the more I can make the change. That's really, you know, that's what it's about. The more I can
Yeah,
make the change, the money for me is a side effect of that, and I want to pour it back. So for me, I'm helping some community advocacy centers here. So, my local child advocacy centers in the area. So, that's the side point. But
for you.
the thing is, I want to bring this back to the mission that you have, because I know that there are probably people sitting in this audience that would like to ask questions and get up and talk about this. Monica, who's in our audience, is someone who actually works in this same arena. So she is a private detective, but she also works in child trafficking. She is in the Atlanta or the Georgia area somewhere. And, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to invite people up, for this last few minutes, and, we can open up the conversation and connect here, because I think the more people that can get involved, the better.
I would love that. Yeah, my belief on this, it's all about collaboration. I've worked with other foundations in the past that unfortunately felt like it was all about them and their foundation and their focus, and it's not that. There are so many good people and so many good foundations out there that just need additional resources or whatever it is. But we can all collaborate together, and we can win. We can win this war. I had a podcast earlier today, and he's like, "Oh, Paul," he said, I don't know. This doesn't seem like a war you can win." I said, "Watch me." There are so many good people that it doesn't have to be me that's winning this war. There's
Right.
billions of people willing to step forth and say, "Okay, we're going to work together and we're going to win."
I
So
love it.
yeah, I would love to hear from Monica.
Okay. Well,
And
Monica,
thank
you
you,
Hey,
jumped
Monica,
Paul.
up.
thank you for your
Yeah.
service.
Hey, actually, you and I text a couple of weeks ago. I think you were out of the country then, and you were so kind and so gracious. And I did email you some information on the Legacy Center, the Resource Center, and the housing facility that we're building in Atlanta for up to about 50 human trafficking victims. I'm a private detective and prior law enforcement, and I've been involved with human trafficking for about 10 years now. I've done well over 50 human trafficking rescues. So when you were talking about the brothel with the kids. We did a rescue in the Philippines, and I literally had to take off a week because all of the kids that were in that particular brothel, they were all little boys, and there were men that had flown in from Belgium and Switzerland and all over the place, and they had paid $20,000 for what they call a package. So they were able to do anything and everything that they wanted to do with these little boys sexually for an entire week. And it was, I tell people all the time, you can think that oh, okay, hold on. Thanks, Deanna. So you can think that you understand what human trafficking is, but until you have seen something like that, where you see grown men, 40, 50, 60-year-old men that are there that have paid tens of thousands of dollars for the ability to be able to sexually abuse a child, it's beyond anything that you can imagine. And I hear the same thing you hear, Paul, where, people have said to me, do you understand how big this is? And human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. And Deanna, I think you know that, and I know Paul knows it, but they're guesstimating that it grossed over $300 billion last year. And I've had people say to me, why do you want to do this? And why are you so passionate about it? And, it took a lot to be able to raise this funding. And we haven't raised all of it, but we're about halfway there. But I am a firm believer that one person can make a difference. I get upset with people when they think that one person can't make a difference. You can. You absolutely can make a difference if you're vigilant, if you're persistent. And I tell people all the time, I'm a cross between a pit bull and a Rottweiler. And I don't give up, and I'm tenacious, and God's given me so much favor that I do believe that we will be able to make a difference, and we will be able to eventually absolutely eliminate human trafficking. But we have to hit them where it hurts, and it hurts in their pockets. So we have to find ways to be more creative where we're not just rescuing the children, which we're absolutely dynamic at, but we got to be able to hit these traffickers where we're affecting their bottom line. So, I'm working with other people that are committed to being able to do that. And I love what you're doing, Paul. And I can't wait for us to connect, because I really do want to pick your brain and see how I can bless you. And prayerfully, you can give me some guidance as well, because this is new for me in regards to opening up this facility. We're already getting offers to do these legacy centers at other places around the country, because my research has shown that you can't just rescue these kids, you can't just rescue these women and not be able to provide the resources where they're able to earn a living, they're able to regain their self-esteem. It's not just mental health counseling. And like I tell Deanna, a lot of people have this attitude, and we're actually going to be doing t-shirts where you give people a biscuit and a blanket. You can't just give them a biscuit and a blanket, pull them off the street and give them a biscuit and a blanket. You have to provide the mental health counseling, the emotional counseling, the financial literacy, where you can teach a young woman how she can make a really good living, not working at McDonald's making $10 damn an hour. It doesn't help them. But if you can teach them how they can earn a living, where they can live comfortably like I do and like you do, Paul, it makes a huge difference. So that's why we're doing everything in our center. Every service you can think of, we're offering: hair salon, barbershop, financial training, financial assistance. I've partnered with Toyota, Kia, getting them to give us cars where we can bless people with cars so they can get to work, and all of those things. We've thought of everything because we really do want to make a difference. I'd love to talk to you when you have time for me, Paul. Well, I would love it.
I have a
Monica,
question.
good
I have two
freaking
questions.
job.
And one is, she is passionate. Right? And you too. I'm in a little passion sandwich right here, because on my screen I'm in the middle. Anyway, so for my question, I have two questions here. One question is, how do we bridge the gap between cutting off the funding sources, but also still helping and getting the rehabilitation or the healing? How do we that's a bridge, because one aspect is kind of going straight for the gut to stop it in its
Mhm,
tracks. And one
mhm,
aspect is a little bit more it's going to take a little bit longer to get these people into programs and willing to heal. People have to, you have to get to the people and heal them. Or are we talking in a
Right.
generation healing the people that this has happened to, so that when that generation grows up, it doesn't keep perpetuating? I guess I'm trying to understand that
Right.
cycle, breaking the cycle.
I had a really interesting conversation earlier, actually last week, with a group who they had a law firm, and they had a deal with the U.S. government that as some operators took down drug rings, trafficking rings, etc., that instead of that money being sucked into this black bureaucracy hole that would be just wasted on all kinds of crap, that money, that this is what their goal is that money can actually be specifically earmarked for healing, for fixing the core problem. And so in this case, I told them, look, I would sign up for that all day long. I'll send guys in to take down these rings and stuff. And if we can have a legal ability to go in and freeze all of their assets and then redirect those assets to healing houses, that would be a win-win-win for everybody. And so, unfortunately, so much of that money gets sucked into a bunch of government crap that doesn't do any good. So by being able to redirect that into things that are really making a difference, to organizations that are fighting the cause and doing the trauma healing for what's going on there. So that would be a big opportunity if we can pull all that off as well.
Yeah. And so, and there's another foundation that I got involved with while I was traveling, called Thistle Farms. And it's a very small community. I don't know if you've heard of them, but she doesn't work in children. She works with women who have been sex trafficked. But she does the same thing. She does the complete program is a couple of years of we get them off the street, we provide them housing, they go through the healing program, but we also, because she found what you said, Monica, that when they did the program initially, if they didn't provide them with jobs and the things that they needed to get on their feet, they wound up right back into
Exactly.
the system, because
Exactly.
nobody wanted to hire them, because 9 times
Exactly.
out of 10 they have a criminal record. 9 times out of 10. And so they
Right.
came off the street, they got clean, right? Because a lot of them had drug issues. They got clean, they went through the
Right.
program, they want to heal, they want the help, but they wound up back there because they had no way of supporting themselves. So what she did is she opened a shop. I mean, what she did is she just said, okay, fine, I'm gonna open a candle shop and we're gonna make candles. And they started making handmade candles. And every
Wow.
person who went in was employed by her. And then they
Wow.
started other handmade goods. And a big portion of the women that went through that program are now part of providing the service. They are part of the team.
Nice.
They're directors. They run the circles. They are people
Right.
who are working to heal other women as they come off of the street. And she has
Yeah.
like a coffee shop. It's like a whole thing. I went
Right.
and toured the facility collecting dreams at this place when I was coming through from out of town, because I heard the mission and I didn't have funds to give
Right.
them. So I went in, they allowed me to join their inner circle. I collected these women's dreams and I shopped, right? But I got to
Oh.
see the whole facility where they make the candles and they do the things. And she co-ops with some of these places who do this in other countries. So she gets handmade goods from
Right.
the Philippines or handmade goods from different places.
Love
Um,
it.
and helps those funds help to support those. So yeah, I probably paid a lot more than I needed to for like a leather case for my laptop. But the thing is, that's all I could do at the time to give back, give back there. But this is the kind of thing, like if I could get my stuff where I want it to be, that's where my money would be going, right? Into places like these child
Absolutely.
advocacy centers or these places that need to house and give women jobs so that they can actually stay off the street. You can't complete the healing
See,
process,
and
and
that's
that's why
so
these
smart.
cycles keep.
So So smart, Deanna, because what we did is that we did a lot of research. So I've reached out to quite a few very large Fortune 500 corporations that are partnering with us. And they have programs where they will train our members. And average salary is anywhere between $50,000 to $110,000 a year. See, to me, you're giving somebody hope. You can't put somebody in a $10 an hour job when the average apartment in Atlanta is $1,200 a month. You know, $10 an hour, you're not even bringing home $800 a month after taxes. So if you can give somebody the opportunity to not just work and earn a wage, but literally earn a living where they can see themselves buying a home. And we're going to be offering financial assistance for apartments and drug counseling and employment readiness and mental health counseling, everything that we could think of, including me kind of reaching out to, you know, different people that will be coming to speak to motivate them, because you have to be the change that you want to see. They want to see an example that it's possible. So if they see women like you, Deanna, or they see me, or they see Paul, and, you know, and see the possibilities, it gives them hope, because a lot of them don't have hope. But if you can give them hope, they can grab onto it and go and really, really, really do great things in the world. So I don't want to put a Band-Aid on this. I want to do surgery and fix the damn thing. I don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. I want to fix it and eradicate it. And we can do that by really giving people the tools that they need, even the children. When I get a chance to speak, they're, you know, they don't understand I'm Olivia Pope. I'm not the TV. That's what I do for a living. So when they see somebody like me or you, it gives them hope of knowing what the possibilities are. So I'm excited. I'm so happy to meet Paul. I mean, like I said, I knew who he was, and I'm so thrilled that I got a chance to talk to him tonight. So thank you, Deanna. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank
Paul,
you,
did you have
Monica.
something you wanted to add there?
I did. I just wanted to reiterate the most powerful thing that you can do in helping somebody in any kind of trauma position is give them that missing ingredient, which is belief. That is so important. You're never going to solve poverty by just showing pictures of poverty to affluent people. You're not. What you're going to do, hopefully those affluent people can use their resources to create a platform and an environment allowing those people to grow. But the most important thing you can do is help those people in that challenging situation truly believe that they can achieve anything that they want. That it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter they don't have the education. Guess what? I don't. I've got a high school education. I don't even have an associate's degree. Nothing, right? And so but the tools that I had that were so valuable to me was some old audio tape program that I had to put a little pencil in and wind up every time it got sucked into my thing by Brian Tracy that changed my psychology of belief of myself. So by me believing that it was possible, you know, I'd listen to Les Brown over and over again. It's possible, you know, because that's the missing ingredient. In fact, when we were building the Attacking Anxiety and Depression program, the reason it was so effective was the fact that we brought in personal coaches who were living, breathing, loving human beings who had been through the anxiety themselves and had overcome it, using the cognitive restructuring, changing the habit patterns of thought that we were teaching. And it gave people that missing ingredient. And it was so beautiful. And so Monica, you are so spot on. That is what is necessary, is helping them see that there is a future that is unlimited for them, whatever it is that they can dream. And there are so many beautiful stories that I have of people that visualized whatever it was. My first wife, she was 230 pounds, 29 years old, and decided she wanted to be an NFL cheerleader. I'm looking at my 29-year-old wife, 230 pounds. I'm like, you go, girl, right? And she did it. She did it by visualizing what she wanted. I gave her this little picture that year for Christmas that had a 49ers cheerleader but had her face on it, Tiffany Hutchinson, San Francisco 49ers cheerleader. And she visualized every night before she went to bed and every morning when she woke up, and she lost over 100 pounds. And Inside Edition did this big piece on her, called it Tiffany's Triumph. And there was 500 girls trying out for the 49ers. There was 3 spots available. She was the first pick. It was a miracle. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 230 pounds and 29 years old and live in Utah. You can still become a cheerleader for the 49ers if that's what you really want. And so that's what it is. It's just giving people the belief.
And I want to
Yeah.
add in here because Monica knows this about me, but I'm a big Brene Brown fan. I think that our
Yeah.
language is so important because we need to be able to understand what it is that we are going through and what we're experiencing. And when she talks
Yeah.
about hope, and she says, like, hey, if you're going to experience hope, this is how you do it. You have to know where you
Yeah.
are. We always have to know where we're starting, right? But you also need to know where you want to
Absolutely.
go. You need to know how
Mhm.
you're going to get there, and you have to be tenacious. You need to have that energy. But like you said, both of you, agency is the key ingredient. If you don't have that belief that it can happen, that
Yes.
it is possible, if you don't have that
Mhm.
belief, then you are never
Yeah.
going to get to being hopeful. You have to have the
Very true.
agency to believe
Yeah.
not just in yourself, but that it is possible for you. And
Yes.
that
Yes.
is only done through seeing that out here. It's one of the biggest reasons I like doing this show is because I get people on here, people like Paul. Like, I didn't know you. I don't know you. I met you on Clubhouse. We talked for a few minutes. I'm bold and said, "Hey, come on my show. Would you come on my show? Huh? Please, will you?" And we arranged it, and here we are talking about something, and I'm looking at the experiences that you've had where you say, "Hey, I did these investments. I built this this empire of my own, just that part of it, right? Before anything, I wanted to work with children. I wanted to work with stress. I managed to build up my own net worth to a place where I can now go out and do this. And I did it with a high school
Yeah.
degree. Okay, I didn't know that about you. That gives any person out there agency, right?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, well,
Yes.
there you go. You have something, you're
Yeah.
doing the things. It's about being able to believe. And so
Absolutely.
that to me is that's more important than probably pretty any other
Yeah.
part of being able to put hope into people.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all
For
right.
sure.
Well, I mean, I can probably talk forever, but we are at the hour and my voice is going because I have been sick for literally 5 days now. Because our weather went from, hey, turn the air
Mhm.
on. Oh, wait, never mind. Turn the heater on. Wait, never mind. Put your
Yeah.
window back. Wait, no,
Same
heater.
here. Same here in
And I'm
Atlanta.
like,
It's crazy.
it's trying, the weather's trying to kill me. so, so look, I don't know, but what I like to do, Paul, at the end, and I don't hope this isn't putting you on the spot, but I don't think it will. If you can tell us 2 or 3 things that you want people to walk away from this show and remember in their heart of hearts, give us your 2 to 3 things you want people to take away from this
Wow.
program.
Thank you, Deanna. I would say number one, paramount above everything else, is understanding that it's not just the law of attraction, it's the law of creation. It's where in every action, every word, and every thought are literally creating a world of healing or a world of trauma, a world of abundance or a world of scarcity. And so as we go through our day, it's vitally important that we pay attention to those thoughts and understand that those things are what are driving your life, and you could literally be, do, and have anything that you can imagine. That's number one. Number two, it's so important that every one of us understands that we are not defined by what happened to us or, in fact, anything that exists in our past. That does not define us. We learned from it. We can gain some great knowledge from it. We can gain strength from it. But every one of us, everyone, can heal from those challenges. And understand that just because somebody's challenges were different than yours doesn't mean that they were for example, just like you, Deanna, I didn't have childhood challenges in my home growing up. My trauma was self-imposed. 10 years ago, I wasn't Paul Hutchinson. I was Paul effing Hutchinson. I built a multi-billion-dollar company. I could, and all this negative energy was just creating negative relationships and negative pathways in my life. And it took a lot of me figuring out who I really am and what makes me happy really truly on the inside. It wasn't parties with 500 NBA players and what. No, it was, and girls, it was making a powerful positive impact in the lives of others. And number 3, probably, just as important as the rest, is an understanding that by choosing to live your life after you've healed yourself to helping others to heal and transform their lives, you can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it karma, you can call it whatever you want to. There's a higher power very interested in us doing good and making a difference in the lives of others. And your life will transform, not only emotionally, but financially and every other way, if you understand that by giving, you'll get. I made a decision that 20% of my money and 20% of my time would go to making a difference in the lives of others. And this is back when I was earning $2,000 a month. A lot of people are like, oh, when I'm rich, then I'll give away money. Guess what? The rich don't. They really don't. You take a look at the people earning over 100,000 a year, that earning over $1 million a year, the percentage of their income that they give away statistically is smaller than the people who earn $50,000 a year and less, right? So choose today. And that upsets me because you know what? There's so much opportunity that you can take that. Now, I'm not going to force it anywhere, but I will say that if you make a decision that a huge percentage of your time and money are going to make a powerful, positive impact in the lives of others, your entire life will transform.
Yep.
That's all I have to say about
that. We got a little Forrest Gump impersonation going on, and that's all I got to say about that. So, law of creation, positive impact, and pay it forward, basically, right? Use your lessons. I like to say your mess becomes your message. You need to be good stewards. We are obligated when we have the ability to heal and learn to be able to help others maybe not have to take as long or go through so much hardship to get to that place. So,
and one little last thing, Deanna, that a shameless plug for my book coming out called Are You Listening? Is all about understanding that every single one of us have the ability to feel and recognize the spirit of truth that can guide us in ways in our life that will lead us to happiness and lead us to peace. But we need to get rid of all of the noise and learn to listen. And somebody wants to find me, they can, instead of having to type out Paul Hutchinson official, because that's too long, you can go to soulhealer007.com and that'll point you to my Facebook page and stuff. And that's just getting started. I only have like 1,000 followers right now because I literally have been no social media for the last 10 years, but believe it's important to start taking these messages public. So
yes,
thank you for having me
wholeheartedly. And so what I will do, you guys who are listening and people who are taking in the replay, this will all be in the show notes. You don't have to memorize it. You don't have to figure out what you got to type. I will put in the show notes. And then as you guys know, after this, I go through and do a little bit of tweaking of the production, and then it'll go out on podcasts and you guys can just listen to it everywhere. Paul, I'll send you all the links for all of that stuff. Monica, is there anything you want to add before we sign off?
No, you just blessed my soul, Deanna. It's so great to meet you, Paul. We're going to go out here and change the world. I'm so excited.
Changers. Both of y'all have that 007 in your name. I love it. All right. So then that's it. I'm going to wrap up the show here. I want everybody to know that I appreciate you guys for joining. Appreciate you coming up and talking with us, Monica. Thank you again so much, Paul. I like to tell everybody I see you and you're beautiful. I do believe that. I believe that about everyone. So thank you for doing this show with me. And, I'm Deanna. I'm your coach that leads you to your laughter after. So until next time, I want you guys to, love on each other, stay connected, shine on. I'm going to play us out with some of my husband's music. You know how I do. All right.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna take us down off the screen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Thank you.
My stuff is moving real slow right now.
Girl, I tell you, Fireside. Ooh.
It's rough.
Serious right now?